Hi friends, and welcome to the Shai Show. I'm Shai. A few things that mattered to me the most and were relevant to me the most from this week's Parsha, Nitsavim, was right in the first pasuk. It says that you are standing today, all of you, before Hashem, your God. So it's as though Hashem is right away letting us know that you are important. You are standing before me, and I am looking into what you do because it matters to me. So I think that sometimes that when we're part of a larger society, that we might be able to lose focus that there's certain individual or specific goals that we're headed towards. It's almost as though we're looking towards some ideals that we've seen that are foreign to us, in the sense of something that we feel we need to be a part of. Almost as though it's recognizing that this is where the good's going to come from. Maybe you could even relate it to something like the Stockholm Syndrome, in the sense where at least an aspect of it, in the sense that you have a hostage taker takes a hostage, and the hostage eventually becomes sympathetic towards the hostage taker. That the absolute power that the hostage taker has over the hostage starts to tantalize the hostage, and it's as though that they feel that their security and their well-being depends upon them, because in some way it does. That they now that their own sense of weakness and feebleness of not being able to accomplish and look to themselves about what it is that they're meant to do becomes lost, and they start looking to see how they could be, to gain from this hostage taker. Maybe in a more positive sense, it's almost as though that it becomes like a level of dependence, the way that a small child is on his mother, as opposed to recognizing a certain level of independence and worth. Maybe the story of the Ugly Duckling. The story of the Ugly Duckling. He didn't know he was a swan. He thought he was just an ugly duck. So what did he do? He tried, to whatever he needed to do to assimilate and to fit in. Whether it was, seeing how on their terms, how cutting edge he can be, how far it could be. And sometimes we relate, a person looking at foreign ideals could start to relate to see how cutting edge they could take ideals that are a bit foreign to us, instead of recognizing the beauty. It reminds me of a true story. There was once a chicken and a cow walking down the street, and they came across a billboard in front of a restaurant. That billboard in front of the restaurant, in one line, it said, for $1.99 you could have two eggs any way you like it. The next line, a different color, said, for $10.99 you could have a steak and a side dish. The chicken says to the cow, wow, in 2 lines, we summed up our contribution to humanity. I provide breakfast, you provide dinner. So the cow says, there's a difference. For you, it's just a contribution. For me, it's total commitment. So, looking here, when it told us that you are standing today in singular and all of you together, there's a component of an individual point, and it sounds like a group component. And even when we're looking at a group, maybe to understand these differences and the potential for how cohesive that this is in some ways really possibly even one thing, is that even when we're part of any group, that there's usually an individual contribution, that there's the accountant, there's the lawyer, there's the public relations, there's the one who gets the food, but it's really everyone makes his contribution, and there's a focus of this group, whether it's towards some sort of business venture, whether it's a good cause, whether it's building a hospital, whatever it may be. It sounds like a bunch of individual contributions to a greater whole. So in order to be holy, how can we do that with a WH? So maybe we can look at doing something holy, and not just individual acts of contribution, but something more wholehearted, is possibly that when a person can recognize that they are standing before Hashem, in the sense that everything they're doing, if they're contributing towards this greater good, and let's say in our sense, looking towards the Torah as the ultimate instruction booklet for how to do the greatest kindness and the greatest goodness. So if you want to know how to do good and how to do right, the Torah was this instruction manual to connect with that parts of our soul. And by looking into that part, and by understanding and taking on those things and contributing everything we do, we understand that we're resting, we understand that we're eating in order to contribute and do the greatest good and to do the greatest, to do the best things, so that good things not only coming our way, but bringing good things to everyone else's way. It can be that these good things are part and parcel of what it means to do our best, what it means to do our greatest, and by the fact that we start dedicating ourselves to every little detail, even when we're getting our food, that becomes enlightened, that becomes part of the whole. So there's not just an individual contribution, but everything all together. So this becomes the greatest contribution, in that our individual efforts, even when we're not possibly being part of the group, but being that we're doing it with the understanding that we're doing it towards this group effort, that we're completely committed in everything that we do, now changes these seemingly individual private acts into also acts of kindness for other people, because we're doing it, meaning that the preparation in order to do it, like eating and gathering the food for others and for ourselves, is also allotting for this opportunity to grow and to steig and to raise up, that ultimately brings us enlightenment and brings us a reward. But in order to do that, like the pasuk says, you have to know you're standing before Hashem, to know that Hashem is interested in what you do and how you do it, and even giving you encouragement on and guidance on how to do these things, for our good, and to allow you to do the greatest good for others, and to do the greatest kindness for others. But to understand that, to really be motivated, I think, is to understand how important you are, to understand that you're actually before the King and you have this very intimate audience. If we would maybe even look inward to recognize that by looking inward and understand the importance, and this is our relationship, that we're then able to look outward and continue a cycle of kindness, and knowing that it's not just some sort of temporary kindness, but a long-lasting kindness. Thank you so much for stopping by this week. I look forward to seeing you next week. And friends, please, any comments or questions, please leave it in the space below. And I know it's going to be a great Shabbos and a great week.